Hi, my name is Elisa, and today we are talking about the books that I read and hauled in the month of April. So, I started the month of April off by finishing a book, and that was You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Pelago. This was fun, weird, and overwritten, underwritten. I'm not sure how to describe it. The writing didn't do it for me, is what I'm gonna say. I felt like you could tell that this was a debut. And I hate saying that because that feels so like judgmental and gross, but it just felt like that's just what I'm gonna say. It felt under-edited. It felt like there were times where the dialogue just did not come off naturally or believably, and I struggled with it. I definitely struggled with it. I struggled with the writing, and it definitely took me out of the story, leading me to give it a 3. I loved the ideas. I loved what it was based in. Didn't love the execution quite as much. The first book I hauled in the month of April is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This was Aardvark's special edition book. It's gorgeous, and this had been on my wish list since it came out the year prior. The sequel was coming out, also in a gorgeous cover, so I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick up the original one. I don't need both, I just need the first one. So, you know, showing a little bit of restraint. This is fantasy, but it is a Holmes and Watson style detective duo take the stage in this fantasy with a mystery twist. And I don't know much about it, but I feel like with fantasy mystery, I really don't want to. I know I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I know this is a very much loved book, so I'm hoping it works for me. I am not a fantasy girly quite as much. I feel like I'm always surprised when I really like a fantasy, so I'm hoping this is one of those that takes me by surprise. The next book I finished was The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This was one of my most anticipated releases of this year. I love Stephen Graham Jones writing, and this was no exception. I did give it a 4-star. I feel like I love his writing, but it also takes me quite a while to complete. I'm not sure what it is about it, but every single one of his books, you can count on it that the time it would normally take me to read like a 400-page book, you can double it if it's Stephen Graham Jones. I loved this though, so there's a part of me that's like, I want to go back and give it a 5 because this has stuck with me. This is one of those books that I think about a lot, that I wish I was still reading. I think it also kind of took me a while because I was so enamored with it. I was savoring it, kind of. I was taking my time, and it was just amazing. It is about a priest, pastor, reverend. He's not Catholic, so he's not a priest. In what year are we? 1912. So it is about, well, technically it starts off with a girl in 2012, and she finds or is told about this diary that is written by her great-great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather. And he is living in 1912 in the Wild West, and he is a reverend in this town who maybe has some secrets, and also maybe has this new kind of scary visitor coming to him and giving him confession every Sunday. And it's so much fun. I had like an idea, like a Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I was like, okay, that sounds like a Stephen Graham Jones book. Like something is hunting buffalo hunters. I didn't know the route this was taking. I didn't know what this was. I'm not actually sure if it says. It's an American Indian revenge story, which, like, hell yeah. Yes, it does not actually tell you what kind of horror this is, but it is great horror. I genuinely enjoyed this, and I do think I'm gonna go back and give it a 5-star because it was very, very good. Next up, I hauled Every Sweet Thing is Bitter by Samantha Crewson. I feel like book of the month, it just has like monthly thrillers that I'm like, every time I'm like, I've never heard about that, but let me see what it is. A woman with a violent past gets a chance at redemption in this upmarket suspense debut. Oh yeah, I remember this. 13 years ago, Providence Bird threw the family car in reverse and ran over her mother. And I was like, okay, I'm down. I feel like so many thrillers nowadays have been done a million times, or it's, in a lot of cases with me lately, I feel like something has like a great pitch and a great summary, and then the execution is lacking. So I'm hoping it doesn't suffer from anything, and it's just a good thriller. I feel like if you read a lot of thrillers, you might have the same problem as me, where you feel like you're either reading the same story over and over again, or execution starts to lack because it's harder to surprise you, maybe? I'm not sure, but I have not even high hopes. I have hopes for this one. Next up, I finished Is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins on audiobook. I had actually started this back in March, but it was taken from me before I could finish it. And pause, thinking about that, I was going to talk about this a little bit. I would say my reading has been way less than last year. I have not been getting through as many books as I normally do. And like, that's somewhat to do with like mental health stuff, because, you know, haven't been the most not depressed. It's also wedding planning, so a lot of my free time is spent doing that. And it's also the fact that I'm not putting the pressure on myself to read so many books. So I'm not picking super short books just to get my numbers up. I am reading because I want to read and that it's bringing me joy. And I actually am really enjoying that. And I don't care that I've only read 23 books this year. It's like, you know, it's okay. It's okay that I probably will not hit my goal of 100 books this year. But I also feel like a lot of healing around that. So I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with that. But back to Is She Really Going Out With Him? I gave this a 3. This is a romance about a woman who was recently divorced. She has 2 kids and she works at a magazine in Bath, England. She has an arch enemy in her office, like so many of these romances have, and she just hates this guy, and they are basically tasked to write a column together, and she just starts, you know, maybe seeing that he is more than she thought he was. But this column is not just any column. The whole premise is she is letting her kids pick out who she's going on dates with. So she just ends up with some very funny, silly little dates, some not so silly dates, and it was fine. I read a Sophie Cousins romance a few years ago. 12 Dates of Christmas, that might be the one. I like her like shticks. I like her gimmicks in her romance books. This one was fine. It just didn't, you know, really hit me. 3 stars. Next up from Aardvark, I got Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. I don't remember. The thing with Aardvark is the way that they do their hints on Instagram. It pulls me in long before they release these hints, or they release these books. So this says, I'm in your blood and you are in mine. The Netherlands, 1887. Lucy's twin sister Sarah is unwell. She refuses to eat, mumbles nonsensically, and is increasingly obsessed with a centuries-old corpse recently discovered on her husband's grand estate. Okay, this is the kind of like gothic stuff that really works for me a lot of the time, but I will also say that I have found sometimes execution is lacking. I also find with Aardvark books, they tend to either be huge hits for me or really big misses, so not a lot in between. So we'll see. I'm kind of excited. This is one of those that I did pick out without it being, I believe, on a most anticipated list or like on my wish list. However, I'm hoping for good things. Then from the library, I read Bitter is the Heart by Mina Hardy. This is about a woman who had an abusive childhood. She had a really tense relationship with her mother. She ran away from home when she was 17, and things have gotten better. She has a younger sister that she loves a lot and is super close to, and basically some things happen and her mother has to move in with her and things start to happen again, and she kind of has to figure out if maybe her childhood home was haunted, maybe her mother is just evil, maybe her mother is possessed, and there's, you know, a lot going on. This didn't work for me. I gave it a 2. I am not totally sure looking back what it was that didn't work for me. I just found this so difficult to pick up. I just was not called to read it. It might be that I read it directly after Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, so I just, like, it was not comparing. It was not hitting the same way, so I was just, like, not drawn to it. So it took me like 10 days to read. It was not super long, so it should not have taken me that long, and I just didn't love it. I did not love it. Then from Aardvark, we have Bat Eater and Other Names for Corazang by Kylie Lee Baker. This is actually a Literally Dead book club pick, which is awesome. I love when that happens. And this is a wildly original, darkly humorous, and subversive horror novel for fans of The Only Good Indians and The Eyes Are the Best Part. And it's about a crime scene cleaner, which, hell yeah. First of all, you compare anything to The Only Good Indians, I'm down. I love that book. I love Stephen Graham Jones. We've talked about this. I didn't love The Eyes Are the Best Part quite as much as everyone else, but I did really enjoy it. So high hopes for this one. Then I finished Sociopath, a memoir on audio by Patrick Gagne. This was really working for me. When I started this back in March, I was really enjoying my time with it. I was very much just on board. I was listening. I was clocked in. I was, like, you know, on board with what she was saying. She really lost me at the end. I struggle a lot with this. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a mental health professional. I don't want to talk too much about that. However, there are some really good reviews on Goodreads that make very valid points about this book and about how there may be some problems with the way she's presenting herself. She identifies as a sociopath, and once I started reading the reviews, because it just wasn't sitting right with me at the end. Things were coming off not great. I don't know how to describe it nicely. I was ranting to my fiance at the end of this novel, at the end of this memoir, I should say. And it didn't sit right with me. And then when I went and read the Goodreads reviews, I was like, yes. I do love how Goodreads can almost predict which reviews I need to see about a book to, like, confirm my feelings about, or to put words to my feelings. So yes, this was ultimately a 2 for me. I'm good. I'm glad I finished it. It's just not my thing. Then from Book of the Month, I picked up Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. This is not something I would normally pick up, but it was something that just called to me. It says, "Look, the song whispered to me that day in my living room, life can be so big." It's a Friday night in a campus bar in Berkeley, fall of 2000, and Percy Marks is pontificating about music again. And yeah, it's about music, obviously. I don't know. I think I am always looking for the next Daisy Jones and the Six. The next book that's gonna hit me like Daisy Jones did. So I think when things feel like they might be that vibe, I pick them up and I hope for the best. Nothing yet has done that. Maybe this will, don't know. I have heard good things, so I'm hoping for good things and hoping this works out for me. And then the last book I hauled, Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. Last year I read Kate Folk's what is this called? Oh my god, Out There, her short story collection, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite books of the year. I really want to reread it. I think about it a lot. This is about a woman who's in love with an airplane, and yeah, so she's not in love with an airplane, she is sexually obsessed with airplanes. I love it. This is the kind of weird shit that, like, when somebody says something like this, because Books and Lala brought this up when it got announced, and I was watching her video and she was explaining it, and I was like, what is that? But it's Kate Folk, and I loved the way Kate Folk did weird ass shit in her last book, so I'm hoping this works out. And I have a fiance who loves airplanes. So I'm like, you know what? I want to read a book about a woman sexually obsessed with airplanes. That sounds great. Actually, I might pick this up pretty soon because I have to know. I have to know what this is. I'm very excited about it. So if you were keeping count, I read 5 books. I hauled 6 books. So even though I'm not penalizing myself for not reading as much as I normally would, I am trying to buy less books this year. And I have been on a bit of a declutter kick lately, and I have decluttered quite a bit of books. So I could just say, you know, I'm gonna call it even because I've decluttered a ton of books. However, there are some books that I am called to declutter that I bought in January. So that goes completely against the rules that I set for myself this year. Some of these books go against the rules that I set for myself this year, which was don't buy a book from Book of the Month or Aardvark that you are not 110% excited about. So I'm going to keep with my rules, and I am going to say that if I do not, and this is midway through May, I'm setting myself this challenge, mind you. If I do not read as many books as I buy in a month, next month, I have to read the oldest book on my TBR, or I have to get rid of it. That book is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I bought this back, let's check, I'm pretty sure it's like 2017? 2017. So I was, what, a junior in college? Yeah. So yeah, I need to read this. I don't remember what it's about anymore. I've heard great things about this, which is how it has stayed in my collection for 8 years, and I think it's time to read it. This is not one that I'm like, oh god. I'm actually kind of like, oh, good. You know, this is something I want to read. And I had it on my TBR last year because it is one of the oldest books on my TBR. So I'm gonna read this in the next 2 weeks, or I'm gonna declutter it, and that feels good. So those are all the books that I read and hauled in the month of April. I do have a declutter coming up here shortly. I have gotten rid of and sold quite a few books recently, and I probably have another part to that coming up because I just feel I have almost 500 unread books. That's so many unread books. I am continually bringing in about 6 books a month. I'm just not, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm one person. I can always listen to the books I get rid of on audiobook or check them out of the library if I regret it. I don't need to own some of these. Some of these do not call me like some of them do. Like, I have quite a few books. I probably have about 300 books that actively call me, so I shouldn't have any other ones, let's be honest. But I will say I did have a win this month. I went in to my local used bookstore with my best friend and my fiance, and I didn't buy a single book. I'm very proud of myself. I have been avoiding bookshops for a good reason. And I walked in, I looked around, I looked at stuff. There was stuff that I wanted. Didn't buy it. Very proud of myself. 10 out of 10 for me. But thank you so much for watching. Please let me know how your reading has been going this year. I would love to know what you've read recently and loved or hated. Love that too. Comment, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff, and I will see you guys again really soon. Bye.